How important is social media?
You know what? I am going to probably buck the trend of everybody else who says how important it is. And I think social media has always existed, but not in the form it is now. And I think that, we used to joke about cooler talk. Well, that's social media. Because if people in an office have watched a show and they talk about it, then other people get curious about that show and then they watch it. And if they like it, they tell people about it. So there was social media, but in a different form years ago. I think that social media can help get viewership to a show if it takes off, but the show itself has to sell itself. So, I mean, as I said, is it important? They always do, and it's funny because we've looked at all of these new companies that measure social media. And if you ask them at the beginning of a television season which shows are going to, based on blogs or tweets or whatever, which shows are going to be the big hits, 70% of the time they're wrong. I mean, some shows we know are going to be hits, like the X Factor was going to be a hit, or if a show is following or a spin-off of a big show, it's going to be a hit. But in many instances, they're wrong. So the thing is, you sometimes don't know. You can't count on social media. So as I said, if a show reaches social media, has a bigger chance of maybe people at least getting a chance to view or tune in, but it doesn't mean the show is going to be a winner.
How important is cross-platform measurement?
It's very important going forward because a lot of networks now get a lot of their viewing off network, in terms of off the linear connected television. They get it through their iPad, they're starting to get it through mobile, they get it through sites such as Netflix, they get it through sites such as Hulu, and especially the younger generation, and that generation is the future generation of television, and they're used to being able to get television wherever, whenever they want. So going forward, cross-platform measurement, and Nielsen is starting to, implement this cross-platform measurement tool, which everyone is very excited about, is very important, especially for networks such as CW. They get a lot of their viewing off the linear television, and other networks and cable programs that do get a lot of viewing outside of general broadcast television. So you also have shows like Modern Family, who seem to be one of the top-rated shows, if you look at a Hulu, whatever, that people it's must-see viewing, and if they miss it on their television or forget to DVR, they're watching it on these other platforms. So to have that additional viewership added to your the viewership when you're posting is very important, because it's not telling the whole story anymore, just the people who are watching it on their televisions. And going forward, that's going to be more and more true.
DVRs. They're about 40% of the U.S. right now.
Right, 43% right now.
How do you think do you think DVR penetration will increase to a higher level? And if so, how will that impact an advertiser's message?
Well, you know what, DVRs have grown slowly over the last couple of years. I remember 2 years ago they said, oh, it's going to be in 50-60% of households by the end of the year. And it is growing, but at a much slower rate. I don't think it'll ever reach what VCRs once were, which was like 70 or 80% of all TV households. But I do think it's growing because more cable operators are offering it through their regular cable box, so it's not a complicated hookup and they don't have to go to a separate service. So I do think it'll grow because I'd say each month or two they're adding like 1%. Every couple of months they're adding like 1%. So I think that it will continue to grow. I do think maybe by the end of this year it might be 45% or whatever. And advertisers were very scared when DVRs first were implemented. They said, oh my God, no one's going to be watching our ads. But what we found out was that for the most part, people do watch the ads. And even if the people that do fast forward, the people who do tape it and do fast forward, they still get 50% additional audience, because they wouldn't have gotten, the people who DVR, they wouldn't have gotten those additional people if it wasn't for the DVR. So even if 50% of those extra viewers fast forwarded through the commercials, it's still 50%, 50% more viewers than they would have gotten, because years ago you couldn't DVR. So people always forget that. And the thing is, they're still getting most 60% of their audience viewing it live, and that additional percent of viewers who are using their DVR, wouldn't have been able to do that years ago, and now half of them are going to be counted and are viewing your commercials.
How do you think connected TVs might impact your part of the business?
You know what? We haven't, of course, found any impact at this level. Hot levels, at first we thought it might impact hot levels, which means people were not viewing the TVs, they were using it to view other things. But hot levels are as high as ever. For younger viewers, the only dip is in those younger viewers, 12 to 24, and that's where there might be some impact. But, I, for example, I'm in the 18 to 49, let's just say, category. I have Netflix and it's hooked up through my computer, through my television. But I find it difficult to navigate through to find a show and whatever. So I think that it might take some time away, but I do think that the time that people look for the other applications of the connected TV are times when they might have not been watching programming and they just said, let's see what else is on, and they might have tuned on a movie. So I don't think people are going to use that so much in lieu of TV. It might be the same people who would have popped in a Netflix DVD and watched a movie, and now they have the opportunity to watch a movie through their television. So I think there might be some small impact, especially among younger viewers, but I don't think it's going to be really big impact.